Hey,
I wish I
Drew.
could watch our. Hey, good morning, man.
How are you doing? Good to see you.
Man, it is good to be seen. I'm excited to be back here. I was just looking at my notes, kind of refresh my memory of what we spoke about last time.
Yeah.
And what I think we talked about was thinking. The quality of your thinking is going to determine the quality of your life. And thoughts are things.
Yep.
They take on a life of their own. And first you have them, then they have you. And I've lived in that type of space before where I had a thought, I was looking at my life, and then that thought had me. And the dangerous thing is if that thought is inaccurate, if it's not rooted in truth, you're going to be held captive by something that's not rooted in truth. And so I think we talked about thinking last time, and possibly habits. So we said, or I quoted William James, and I said, if I see myself today as I was in the past, my past must resurrect itself and become my future. And the last thing I believe we talked about, which I think is key, and you and I were just having this discussion just a few minutes ago, and it's a sense of coherence. And it's believing that your life is part of something bigger than just yourself. An attitude and a feeling that your life is part of something greater than yourself, and that everything fits together and happens for a reason. And the reason why I can go through certain things in my life right now is not because I could just, grin and bear it, because I believe that I am still being made.
Yeah.
And every good and every bad thing that I encounter is is going to create a product in me. And my life is for someone else. So we're all dishes being made for somebody else to consume. So I believe that kind of catches us up. And then we can kind of shift into the next phase of what we're talking about is maximum achievement. And I don't have the book today. I forgot. It's in my cell.
Yeah.
But I was going to bring it down here so everybody could see it.
Yeah. It's been a while since we first looked at the book, and so I was doing the quick scan over again today, and it got me pretty fired up about okay, what am I doing on forging my thoughts, forging my visualization, orienting towards my goals, and truly, the old army saying, "Be all you can be," right? And
Yeah.
and there's a lot of big things that really popped out when I looked over it again, and specifically like I like the framework of theory, practice, and mastery, and he really talks about all these laws, laws of thinking, mental laws and laws of what makes a fruitful and fulfilling life. So it's a lot of theory there, but then he tells you and says, hey, this is how you need to do it. And he talked about the 21-day crucible of focusing on a habit for 21 days and
Yeah.
and and, and truly programming your brain to do that on your road to mastery. And it made me start thinking about my previous experience back in high school. I would volunteer to go to these wrestling camps. First, it was a 2 week camp, and then I'm like, oh, that's not enough. So then I volunteered and went to a 28-day wrestling camp that in the
Yeah.
University of Minnesota that Jay Robinson put on. He modeled that after being an assistant coach to Dan Gable, and he modeled it after Ranger School. And he was
Wow.
creating a crucible where he had 4 workouts a day to instill the discipline and hard work and whatnot. And I came out after those 28 days believing like I
Yeah.
can I can do anything. And I
Yeah.
felt so transformed. And then I had a little T-shirt that said I did it. And well, and then so I thought of that, and then I thought about selection for special forces. It's a 28-day training model, 21-day training model,
Wow.
and so,
Wow.
24/7, you're doing stuff in the middle of the night. So it's like, hey, there's something to this, crucible
Yeah.
of how you can transform yourself. It's not only a test to see if you can do it, but then they say that necessity is the mother of invention. He highlights
Of
that, which I
invention.
think is
Yeah.
pretty cool. But in
Yeah.
this modern era of comfort, you almost have to self-generate the necessity. And I think you do that through
Yeah.
goal writing and whatnot. But then he said pain is the father of learning. Are you willing to do the
Mm.
work to do the learning? And then, so you need to generate necessity, you need to endure the pain, you need to know the theories, and then you got to practice them, and you got to push into mastery. And I think that's the crux of being your best self. So those are my
Yeah. No.
big thoughts
No.
for
That's
today.
good. No. No. That's good. And I think when you're tying together the wrestling camp with special forces training and seeing that there's a timeline there, and in that timeline, you are being challenged in specific ways, and you were there for a reason, and you had to take responsibility because you put yourself there. And I think when we don't get what we're supposed to get out of a situation is when we don't take responsibility in it. And that's kind of like the next phase or the next kind of theme that I see Brian Tracy getting into here. And he talks about responsibility. He said responsibility always looks forward, always to the future, but blame always looks backward to the past for someone who is guilty. And so in whatever situation you find yourself in, you know, special forces selection, you go through a lot to put yourself in that position to suffer greatly. You know, you traveled, halfway through the country to make it to that wrestling camp to suffer greatly. And you're able to deal with that suffering because I chose the suffering because
Yeah.
I believe the suffering is going to make me. And I think whether you're working a 9 to 5 job or whether you're working 12, 14-hour days or raising kids or you're doing your prison sentence, a sense of responsibility is going to enable you to absorb the lessons, the truths,
Yeah.
the nuggets of wisdom and whatever you're going through. Because if you'd have went through that camp, it felt like, God, why is this guy making me work out 4 times a day? That's unrealistic. You know, you wouldn't have had the teacher that said, I did it. You would have had a teacher that said, he did it to me.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
know, and and and
Yeah.
I just think like even in this environment, and even in my own situation in my own life, I really wasn't free until I was honest, until I took responsibility. And I know I not everybody's a prisoner, and it's hard, but some of us are prisoner to a lot of different things in life. So it may not be capital crimes like myself and some of these goons that live here with me. But when you accept responsibility for life, now you can move forward. And that was 22 and plus years ago for me. So,
Hey, yeah. Let me pivot on that real
go ahead.
quick. So when you say that take responsibility, it makes me think of the book Extreme Ownership, right? Is you got to own it,
Yeah,
and you got to jump in
yeah,
there and grab it, right? And when you say that, taking responsibility, that's you know the necessity is the mother of invention, right? So if you own the fact that you need to take responsibility, then that becomes your necessity. That then enables you to adapt. And then
yeah,
Brian Tracy said there's three things to that are critical to to learning and growing and whatnot. And he said that first you got to want it, but then you got to be willing to do the journey, and then you got to do the work. And that's what's essential, for the learning and growing, that you're talking about. And and then you got to be willing to go through the pain. And so yeah, so to me, personally, I used to my hobby through college, and then the first 10 years in the when I was a single person, I used to love rock climbing, and it was confronting
Oh yeah.
fear, right? And so the willingness to go in face your fear, because you could fall and die if you don't do your rock climbing correctly, and the harder
Sure.
the rock climb you do, the scarier it is, and that's an important aspect of life is being able to face your fears, and so why are you laughing?
I'm thinking. Well, I'm thinking of when I went rock climbing with you, and you had to scale up the side of the mountain to rescue me and carry me down because I could not face my fear of rappelling. It was terrible. I felt like what you were telling me to do was not natural.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
plant your feet and lean back. And I
yeah,
thought, no, let me just climb down like a tree. And it's not like that. And so we have to have another rock climbing moment or something in our future.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But no, you're right though. I couldn't face my fear. And getting your mind, calming your mind down and wrapping your mind around, and this is where a system. And so I couldn't understand the system, the rope, the pulley, where your brother Mark was down there. Support. And so when you don't understand the system of things, it's hard to put your faith in it and overcome the fear. And so that's why comprehension is another important thing.
Yeah, well, or knowledge or wisdom, right? It's
Right.
but you got to put the work in to know, right? And this goes back to the the old army trinity of be, know, do, right? So
Yeah.
you visualize what you want to be, but
Yeah.
then you got to put the work in to truly
To
know.
know. Yeah.
Yep. And then you got to be willing to go through
Yeah.
the pain and do it. And then through
Yeah.
that little trinity, that's the crucible of the forging your best self,
Yeah.
And but you got to be willing to face those fears to do it,
Yeah.
to face your bad habits that might be holding you
Yeah.
back. It might be a false ceiling that you're limiting,
Yeah.
your self thoughts are limiting, or it could
Yeah.
be, you keep on looking, back in the past, blaming things, and it's like, no, we are
Yeah.
truly unbelievably adaptive creatures. God put us on this earth with His skills to be whatever we want to be. It's only ourselves that hold us back. That's a big lesson I got out of this book that I thought was
No.
really
No.
powerful.
No. This book was written, gosh, I don't know, 30 years ago, something like that, 25 years ago. But it is full of so much truth. And, one thing that stuck out to me the most, me personally, he says to achieve inner peace. And he starts out talking about how important peace is in life. And
Yeah,
that kind of ties with the congruency, or not just congruency, excuse me. No, it is the principle of congruency. When your goals and your values are in line with one another. And I know that I've been through seasons of my life
I would say
where I
goals,
just,
values, and actions. You got to put the actions in there too, though.
well, absolutely. What he says, his direct quote is this: high performance and high self esteem only happen when your goals and values are in complete harmony with each other. And you're right. I mean, the action element has to be in there. But when you feel incongruent or you're living incongruently with yourself, it's because my idea, my values, who I'm aiming to be, but what I'm doing are not in alignment. And what suffered right there is peace. And he says, when you exchange your peace of mind for something else, you'll end up with neither. And
Yep.
once you've lost that, and you talked about the knowing part, it's like trying to read when you're distracted. You don't end up really remembering anything that you're reading.
Yeah.
It's like trying to live without peace. And you can't. And peace of mind is the prerequisite to enjoy anything else in life. You can't enjoy anything if there's a turmoil on the inside, and that's why dealing with the inside, what's going on inside, is going to determine the outside. and even reading all these Ryan Holiday books about stoicism, and right now I'm reading Stillness is the Key. It's the war on the inside determines how you handle the war on the outside. Um,
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
and yeah, and well, and knowing yourself
Yeah,
and being on, being objective. It's being able to step away from yourself and saying, okay, am I being respectful, fully respectful in my loving relationships? How am I investing in
yeah,
those loving relationships? What is the true interaction, the give and take? And then,
yeah,
am I being good to myself by, eating good food and working out and, maintaining good, health and fitness habits?
yeah,
Am I saving money for financial prosperity? Am I being a good, reliable, professional employee? That's trying to do a good thing for my colleagues or the people that work for me or my boss or the business. And I think that when those things are out of balance and out of whack, then that's when it starts impacting your peace of mind, and that might make you wake up in
yeah,
the middle of the night, right? And
yeah,
so, being honest with yourself on what should be your priorities and what you're doing day in and day out,
yeah,
I think that's what generates the peace of mind. And so, to me, that was really cool. To see and be like, okay, you that's the nirvana, is generating the peace of mind in all these different facets of life, and then balancing those priorities and making sure you're moving forward and being your best self. And so this book starts, is really teaching you how to do that. And one of the key aspects is you need to write what is the masterpiece ideal of your life, and then
yeah,
deliberately work to visualize that and work towards it. And you can
yeah,
reprogram your brain to achieve that. And I
yeah,
think, I've been bumbling through life, and for some reason I had, crazy drive to push myself to the limits. But now I want to step back and say, okay, now that I've done, and I got a bunch of merit badges in life. Okay, what do I want to truly design based on everything I've
yeah,
learned, over the last 50 years. So that
yeah.
that so I think this book's helped me, pivot. Hopefully not a midlife crisis, just a pivot for better prosperity. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's my take
No,
on it.
no, that's good. I think we have some solid Trinity models here, and I really think thinking is a key element here. If you were to put that at the top of the you know thinking and plan of action, because if your thinking doesn't drive a plan of action, then you're just daydreaming. A plan of action, and then you have to think about interaction, because life is a result of our interaction. I got a great quote here. It says, "As within, so without. The kindest thing a man can do for his children is to love their mother." And the reverse is also true. So our life is not the result of just how we think and feel about ourselves. That I'm the sum total of my impact on others in my lifetime. There's this quote, I think it's by Carl Sagan. He says, we are not who we say we are. We are not who we want to be. We are the sum total of the influence that we have in our life on other people. And so, how you think, driving how you act, equals your interactions.
Yeah, I like that.
Because so at the end of the day, you're just remembered by the relationships that we make and maintain. And so my interactions and how I process those drive my thinking. And so it goes back to choosing how I interpret things. Not interpreting things negatively and keeping that positive loop going, giving a life a meaning. And it's weird that even you would think that here in prison is the ultimate timeout in life. I just check out. I'm just letting a couple decades go by until I can re-enter the world. But no, even here on lockdown, on this COVID craziness, um, it's important how I'm thinking, how I'm processing, and how I'm living and dealing with these people behind me. Because if I'm not living and dealing with these people behind me with wisdom, with kindness, trying to invest in them, what makes me think I'm going to do it with my wife one day, or my children, or my neighbor? So the now matters. No matter who you are or where you are in your life, your now matters because it's determining your tomorrow and who you're going to be in that tomorrow.
Yeah, I really like that. The now matters, right? Because you can, don't get distracted. Don't just bumble through life with no focus or, or deliberate intent. Um, there was a professor when I went through the School of Advanced Military Studies, which is
Yeah.
it's a year-long school. You actually have to apply to get into it. It's almost like a academic ranger school because of the number of books and stuff they want you to read and planning
Wow.
events. It was really great experience. When I was there, you have to write a 40-page paper. That's part of the
Oh,
graduation. So um, when I was there, you have to have a monograph advisor. So I went and chose the hardest monograph advisor. His name was Pete Schifferly. He just passed away a couple weeks ago. His
yeah.
funeral was this Tuesday. And when you just said that, is some of your life is the number of people that you positively influence. He was one of those great teachers, mentors, academics that influenced a whole generation of military officers with profound
Mm.
impact. So I've been debating in my head. Oh, so now you just motivated me to go there because even just to see the amount of people who that are going to go and pay respect to him because of the influence he
Mm.
had, and I need to pay that respect because he
Yeah.
positively influenced me, So, what is life? And so I please shoot me that Carl Sagan quote because I really like that. It's
Yeah. Yeah. No, I will. And I think the responsibility thing. He did not pour into you for a paycheck.
yeah,
He poured into you in hopes that you would combine your individual, unique gifts that God gave you, combined with what He gave you, and you would continue to process.
yeah, and then
And in a way, that's immortality. You don't die. He doesn't die then. He may not be with us physically, but His lessons and His methods and His thoughts are still with us.
yeah, and he learned those from others, and he passed it on to the next generation, and so now for all the people that he positively influenced, it's now up to us to push it to the next
Yeah.
generation, right? To
And I
but
think that's what this is about.
yeah, it's not about eating Twinkies and turning it into total you know poop on the toilet. It's about okay, how am I going to be my best self to make a difference for others, and
Well,
that can be come out in so many different ways, and everybody has to find their own journey, but what is yours? What is mine? Let's get after it.
I think here's the thing. Life is short. That's why getting a 27-year sentence is such a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Because you only have so many years in life, and each person doesn't know what your expiration date is.
Yep.
And that's why every day is so important. That's why every moment is so valuable. I got to make it count. For who? For the
Yep.
people that God has put in my life today to love and to lead. Who am I to love? Who do I need to lead? And the biggest thing, and this is a Ryan Holiday book, my ego's my enemy. I got to die to self. I got to get, if I want to be effective, I got to get ego out of the way. All right, listen. We have less than a minute left. Everybody listening, we were talking about Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. Check it out. It was a great book. It was a great talk. Cousin, I love you.
I love you too,
30
Drew.
seconds.
Yeah. So, hey, what's going to be our 21-day challenge for a new habit? And
Ooh, that's good.
yeah, I mean that's in his book, right? And maybe it's
Yeah,
just even the visualization piece. And
yeah,
because you really got to write that and then try to be it. Otherwise
yeah,
you're that wandering generality. That
yeah.
Zig Ziglar talks about. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.
I love you too. Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for checking in. All right.